that you need. Every little thing you think that you need. Every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it.
Hey everybody, this is just a quick intro before we dive into the podcast. I'm recording this in a hotel room in Portland, Oregon, but what you're about to hear actually occurred in Portland, Maine. We've gone from Portland to Portland within the last week or so, and we're having a blast on the Less Is Now tour. We're getting ready to hit a bunch of new cities as well. This week, this Friday, we are going to announce the second leg of the Less Is Now tour. So make sure you're on our email list over at theminimalists.com, and you can check out all those dates. Real quick, we're headed over to Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. So we're doing the whole Canada stretch there at the end of the summer. And from there, we're headed over to Philadelphia, Manhattan, Brooklyn. That's 2 stops in New York City. Salt Lake City, Denver, Phoenix, Austin, Dallas, Houston, Nashville, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Tampa, Detroit, and Milwaukee. We're headed to 40 cities total. We just finished up an event last night in Portland, Oregon, but from there we're headed over to Grand Rapids, Chicago, Madison, Minneapolis, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. So we're headed to a bunch of cities, a city near you. You can get tickets while they last, while they're still available, over at lessisnow.com. All right, I hope you enjoy this live version of the Minimalist podcast in Portland, Maine. Stay tuned after the show for some comments and tips from our listeners. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Minimalist podcast, where we discuss what it means to live a meaningful life with less. My name is Joshua Fields Milburn.
And I am Ryan Nicodemus, and together we are the Minimalists.
Welcome to a live version of the Minimalist podcast. We're here in Portland, Maine on Easter Sunday. Thank you for being here. Hello, Portland. And we have some folks getting ready to ask some questions here. Ryan and I brought some answers. Did you bring the answers?
I thought you brought the answers.
Sean. All right. Well, we'll wing it, but here we go. Go ahead and give us your name and let us know what your question is.
Okay, my name is Annie. Thank you guys for coming to Portland, Maine.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
I have a question. I have 2 kids, a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they both have so much stuff, and I don't know how to not only just organize it, I've gone beyond how to organize it, but how to minimalize the stuff in their life without doing it for them, since it definitely, a lot of their stuff really provides value for them. So I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that.
Ryan, you don't have kids, so what should she do?
I got some great advice. I love giving out advice when I don't have kids. It's really easy, right? I'm gonna like tweeze out some stuff from other minimalist parents I know. Joshua Becker, for anyone who hasn't read Clutter Free with Kids, it's a great book about this topic exactly. But the one thing he says in that book that really stands out to me is that he says, our kids are watching us. And I think that is really where, they're going to pick up their habits from. And I think, again, not having any kids, that makes sense. But I think that is true, though. I know that I still watch my parents. In fact, I was talking to my mother earlier today, and I was, trying to explain to her how all of us kids look up to her. And if she could be happy, then that's going to make us happy. And I'm not going to go into depth with that private conversation, but it's true. I still do that today at 35 years old. I almost said 30. I don't even know why. I'm 30 at heart. But, the other thing, too, is that as a parent, you get to set boundaries for your kids. You don't want to make them ascetics. Like, you don't want to deprive them. Minimalism is not about deprivation. But you certainly get to set boundaries. I had it was actually someone at our event, I want to say it was Pittsburgh, just a few nights ago, And they came up and they were talking about how they had this toy chest from when they were a kid. It was like the sentimental item that they had. They loved it. And when she was growing up, they could fill only that toy chest, and that was it. So they get all the toys, but as soon as that lid couldn't close, they had to get rid of something. And she's passed this down onto her kids, and now this is her kids' rule. So I don't know what boundaries would work for, you and your family. I don't know if you have a partner or not, but certainly you need to get everyone on board first. But I thought that was a really good idea, and I think you could set other boundaries like that would help at least cut down on the clutter. I'm sure you get a lot of gifts given to you too.
Well, let me ask you that. So how many? So how much stuff do they have? You said they have a lot of stuff, and it sounds to me like I can just hear from your tone. It can be a bit overwhelming.
Well, I don't know where it all comes from. It just like appears. There's so many Legos and blocks and drawings, so many drawings that and I like when you're talking about your mom boxing up your first grade and your second grade. I am kind of that mom. I don't think I've ever thrown away any of their stuff because I don't know what they will want to then see in the future. So maybe that's kind of a thing too, but.
Yeah, so the first question I would ask you to ask yourself, or just the question I would ask you would be, why do they have so much stuff? And right now that's not really clear, but that why is really important, because we tend to have so much stuff because, as Ryan said when he was giving a talk earlier, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to, the average kid in this country has 238 toys but plays with 12 daily. And so when you realize that, the math just doesn't add up. It's going to take you an entire month to play with all your toys. And then, oh, by the way, you realize that a month goes by and what percentage of those toys haven't been played with at all. And so I would find some strategies that work for you. Ryan mentioned a few, but there are a few rules that you can set up and rules that I've set up that have worked well for me. The first one that you can try when if you're trying to pare down and figure out what are the toys they're playing with, or as adults, we just say, what adds value, right? By the way, we have a drinking game on the podcast, so hopefully everyone just took a shot right now.
Adds value.
but what are they playing with? What toys add value to them, right? And what you could do is you can set up a couple different boxes, and you have one box with the toy. When you're forcing them, and I say that as nicely as I can, but basically we have to force our kids by telling them and showing them what to do. But you can put the toys. Here's the box after you're done playing with it, and then here's the other box or trunk or crate or whatever has the other toys that have not been played with. And over the course of time, call it a week, call it a month, you can show them you haven't played with any of these toys over that time period. Also, when you're bringing new toys in, or they're bringing new toys in, because you're saying, I don't know how it shows up. I totally get it. I understand. But here's the good news. The toys don't just manifest. And so it'd be a lot cheaper if they did.
Seems like they do, though.
But I know it does seem that way, and then it becomes overwhelming, and it's hard to deal with. But as new toys, as they want new toys, basically, the question is always that I ask Ella and she's 3, so she doesn't totally get it yet. But I ask her, how are we going to afford it? And that at least gets her thinking about it. Like, what does that mean? And when I say afford it, I don't just mean the price tag, right? Because she doesn't understand currency yet. But I say, how are we going to afford the space that it takes up? Where are you going to put that? And she doesn't have answers to all of these questions yet. But it's sparking the idea of, oh yeah, anytime I want something, Josh is going to start asking me all of these questions, right? And I think those questions are really important because it does create a dialogue, and it's not easy. It's certainly not easy for me to talk to Ella. She's 3. I'm trying, I can't just say, well, we're minimalists. And I told her this about 6 months ago, and she said, what's a minimalist? And that's a difficult conversation to have with a 3-year-old, I found out. Because, I've got my little stock phrase answer, right? I'm like, minimalism is the thing that gets us past the things. And the problem is she doesn't understand what a homonym is. And so then I'm like digressing to explain homonyms and currency, and it doesn't work. And so what I found is that I will will ask her questions, and that's the best way for me to have a conversation with her.
Yeah.
There are other rules that you can set up as well. When something comes in, you can have the 1 in, 1 out rule. I mean, if you're overwhelmed with stuff, it could be 1 in, 10 out. I also have a donation box set up at the front of the house, and with Ella, we have developed the habit, not by telling her she needs to donate anything. We don't tell her that. What we do is we show her every time we put something in the donation box, or we'll ask her to put our thing in the donation box. I'm no longer wearing this shirt, Ella. Would you please go put this in a donation box so that on the first of the month, we can take it over to the donation warehouse and let someone else use that thing. And then eventually she caught on after a while and said, hey, can I donate this toy so some other kid can use it? I remember the first time she said it, I was like just so proud of that. And she's taken it a bit far now. She sometimes like tries to donate the broccoli that's on her plate. But I think if you set up some of those rules and some of those habits, it's like a dial when you're turning the volume up or down on something. I wouldn't try to make it draconian. We're going to get rid of half of your toys today. No, it's really about establishing those new habits.
Thank you.
I'm going to add one thing about the pictures, because there's another parent who, this is really what I do. I just steal other parents' advice and pass it on.
I appreciate it.
But it's good stuff. So she was...
You're a curator of parental advice.
Exactly. But no, she was telling me how when her 5-year-old will come home with like a piece of art that they've done, or like a drawing, and they're like, oh, can we put this on the fridge? And she's like, first off, I hate telling my kids no. So like I will find ways to tell them yes as much as possible. And she's like, yeah, of course we can go put that on the fridge. So then they'll walk over and like the fridge is already covered in pictures. So she'll say, okay, which one do you want to get rid of now? And so she will pick her least favorite one. She puts it in the trash. Then she brings her picture over, and then they put that new one up on the fridge. So I think, again, there are just different ways that you can kind of instill that into your kids.
Oh, I'll add on top of that now. I fucking hate refrigerator magnets. and so, but we have one. We have one refrigerator magnet, because it's not just about me, right? It's about we. But in order for them to appreciate, I mean, Bex knows, my partner knows that I don't want stuff on the fridge, but I also know that Ella gets tremendous value from displaying it, and I'm also not trying to deprive her, so I respect and appreciate that. And so whenever she brings something home she wants to display on the fridge, she knows she has to make that choice, where it's not she has to choose which one. She knows there's one thing up there, and that has to go if she wants the new thing to go up on the fridge. And so that's one of the rules I have.
Thank you.
And I'm going to, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Thanks for being first.
How's it going, guys?
Howdy.
Good, man. How about yourself?
What's your name?
Good. My name's Jake. I'm from Southern Maine. Cool. I got a kind of a weird question. So what do you do at Christmas time or like birthdays when people want to get you stuff? How do you get them on board?
Yeah.
You want to go first? I'll go first.
Go for it.
No, I think when it comes to Christmas and birthdays, so this is April?
It is
still in April?
Yes.
Like now is the time to start talking to your friends and family about Christmas. It's not in October or November when they've already probably bought a bunch of Christmas presents. It's setting that expectation up front. And it's going back to that philosophy that parent was talking about not, being able to say yes as much as possible. So it's not you go to your friends and you're like, bah, humbug. I don't want to celebrate Christmas anymore. I'm a minimalist. Instead it's more about going to them and saying, hey, I am trying to keep my life as clutter-free as possible. And I know that you love me, and I know that you want me to be happy, so I know that you're going to support me on this. And at Christmas time, I would love to exchange some gifts with you. But let's try something different this year. Let's do experiences, or let's just do consumables. Or I got to replace my refrigerator. Give me some Best Buy gift cards, like whatever it may be. But start setting that expectation now and keep reiterating it. Aren't you excited? Oh, I can't wait to see what experience you're going to get me.
Right.
And you plant that seed and you keep growing it. So by the time it gets to Christmas, you've already and people are still going to get you stuff, but it cuts down dramatically.
Right, because I have 4 crock pots from Christmas. I'm like, what do I even do?
Dude, you like start a catering business.
Yeah. I'm not a good cook, believe me. You wouldn't want that.
Yeah, at my wedding I had 3 toasters.
Yeah.
And I don't eat bread. and I mean, that is sort of like a metaphor for consumerism right there, right? I mean, consumerism is letting corporations dictate your values instead of you determining what your values are. And we've been publishing this short animated series called Simples. Has anyone here seen it at all? It's like a 4-part video series, and it's animated. They're really short, but a lot of people have been sharing it around because they're these like little pithy videos that have, you know, a little moral or like a little fable basically. But the 4th one, the final one in the series, is about love not being a transaction. And I think we often get confused, right? We're told that one of our love languages is gift giving. I think that's like saying that Pig Latin is a romance language. I think the truth is that we all that the gift giving isn't the love language. Contribution is the love language, and we want to figure out what's the best way that we can contribute to the people in our lives. Sometimes that can be through a physical item. And because of that, I try to avoid obligatory gift-giving days. Well, it's December 25th. Here, I got you this pair of boots, even though you needed them in October. Well, that means I deprived you for 2 months for these boots if I really wanted to get them for you. And it also doesn't mean I love you. It means I think, you know, Ryan, I got you these concert tickets, and today is April 16th. Well, that's a bad example because it's a holiday today. Today's April 17th, and I got you these concert tickets, and he might be like, well, why'd you get them for me? Well, because I thought you'd find value in it, right? Well, is today some sort of weird holiday, or is it Sweetest Day? Because Ryan and I get stuff for each other all the time on Sweetest Day. No, and so what I'll do is I'll give just because it's any day, because that's a better time because you don't feel the obligation. So that threshold, the sort of barrier for the burden of proof is way lower. And so I'll still give gifts on holidays, but as Ryan said, I will gift experiences or consumables, and I'll go out of my way all other days of the year to make sure I'm giving you the right kind of gift as well. Presence is the best present.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, man.
Howdy. All right, here's what we're going to do. These 3 people are here in line right now. We'll go in depth with their answers, and after them, if we can get like at least 5 people, we'll do 5 people to line up for the lightning round, where you can ask like a rapid fire question, and Ryan and I will try to give you a less than 140 character response. And we've been battling back and forth the last few nights, and we're tied up right now, I believe. So you in Portland, Maine, can be the tiebreaker of us winning the I like to think of it as a rap battle without rapping. So that's where we're going. Howdy, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Leah. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I'm not used to a microphone.
That's all right. I'm nervous too. It's okay.
So I'm from New York, and I moved here, last July, because I actually kind of took your words to heart from your books and left my job, which sounded crazy to a lot of people I know, except my family. They were really supportive of it.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I left my crazy job of 60 hours a week. I traveled 6 months of the year. It was awful. Sorry, former employer bosses who might be listening. I was really unhappy, and
that's okay. It doesn't mean it's a necessarily a bad or evil job. It just didn't align with the person you wanted to be.
Exactly. So I convinced my partner that we were going to move here, and we did. And
what about Portland drew you here? It's an awesome town, by the way. That's why it's the smallest town of our whole tour. We just really wanted to make it back because last time we came here in 2014, it was killer.
I had a 3-day weekend 3 years ago, and I was like, where can I go on I didn't drive at the time, so like, where can I go without a car? So I took the train here for 3 days. I was totally alone by myself, and I came here, and I'm not kidding, the my tour guide on the boat here, like doing the mail run, was like, hey, I'll show you around. Want to come to a barbecue? And I was like, I love this place. So that's why Portland, Maine is awesome. Because people are awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That person's now one of my closest friends, and I'm really happy to live here.
Love it.
So that's how I ended up here. But the cost of living is a lot lower. It also, in being on that journey of like leaving the job, it was what's next, which brings up my question to you, which is when you're on that path of figuring out what you're passionate about, and it comes with its own stumbling blocks of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try this out or that out. I kind of wondered, and this was the gap in your story for me, of like, how did you manage like trying out some things? Like, Josh, how did you figure out you're gonna say like, I'm really a writer, and like owning that? How did you figure out like, beyond starting your blog and writing your words and just getting out there and sharing your words, like, this is who I am, and owning that identity and feeling confident stepping out there with it?
I think it's easier in retrospect to just sort of look back and say, here's the narrative overlay of my life. You're absolutely right. But I can tell you, like, we were just having a conversation today before this event. So we're filming some stuff right now. Have any of you seen our documentary called Minimalism? Look at that. Look at that. Well, you all can thank this handsome gentleman over here, the Italian stallion, Matt Diavella. And he made this documentary with us, and when I say with us, I mean he pretty much made it. And he's just such a talented filmmaker, but we spent so much time on the road, and we had no idea really where we were going with it exactly. In fact, this is our 4th event on the Less Is Now tour, and we've recorded all 4 of them. And we're not really sure what we're going to do with it. And I say all that to say, I like to turn the noun into a verb. You asked me, how did I know to say I was a writer? I didn't, and I still don't. And the truth is, I'm really passionate about writing. And I'm not passionate about being a writer. I'm passionate about the actual activity. And I know with Matt, and we also have Conrad over here. He's here filming as well. Let's give him a round of applause. Conrad is a crazy talented filmmaker, and we are just so lucky to have both of these guys on the road with us for this. But what I've learned is that it's about doing these actions. And you know what? That documentary is 79 minutes long, but we had over 2,000 hours worth of footage. So there's 1,999 hours out there somewhere that never got used. And it was much more about doing the work. And then once you do it, you'll figure out, like, there are pieces that work, but most of it doesn't work. And so the key then is drudging through the drudgery and being willing to get to the other side of it. And they may seem like failures at the time, and by definition they are, but all of my successes are birthed out of a million little failures.
Yeah, I would say don't stress yourself out too much about finding out what your passion is, because I know you probably want to like change the world.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. But I would say, and maybe you're at this point, but if the only person that you change your entire life is yourself, like, that's okay. And, maybe right now your purpose is, not you, but any of you, like maybe your purpose is to like pay off your debt, or maybe it's to take care of your sick grandmother, whatever it may be. Like, it's okay to have those small purposes. I think when it comes to passion, like for me, I'm passionate about a lot of things. I love to snowboard. I love to longboard. Pretty much anything with board on it I like to do, except waterboarding. But
have you tried it?
It's none of your business. But what I'm saying is that those aren't changing the world. I mean, and this is great, and this is my passion, don't get me wrong. But when I can not be on tour and get to the top of a mountain and go down some awesome runs, like that makes me feel so good. Makes me feel almost as good as like this makes me feel. But my point is that you're not born to do one thing. There isn't one thing out there that you were born to do. I mean, really, the only way you can, figure out what your passions are is by trying out some stuff. And you can't try it all out at once. It's not like I did all those things at once. Like right now, I have a snowboard, I got a mountain bike, longboard, and I use all those things. And you know what? I live in Missoula, Montana, which, by the way, has anyone here been to Missoula, Montana? Is Portland, because Portland reminds me of Missoula a little bit. Did Missoula remind you of Portland at all? No?
It's like a very big, small town.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's what it feels like to
I was just wondering. But I live in Missoula, Montana. I want to fly fish. Like, I really want to go I really want to pick up that hobby. But like I already have so many different passions in my life. I'm not gonna do that, because I know how hard it is for me during winter to get up in the mountain, how hard it is for me to get up in the mountains with my mountain bike, and longboard's pretty easy because like I can just kind of skate around, go to work and stuff. But I know that if I picked up that fly fishing hobby, that I wouldn't even have time to turn it into a passion. Now, maybe one day I'm gonna wake up when I'm like 60 years old and I'm like, man, my back's really hurting. I don't think I'm gonna be able to snowboard this season. Actually, I hope that doesn't happen. My partner Mariah, her dad's 60 years old, and he'll still like beat me down the hill sometimes. So hopefully I'm not doing that. But I might, and then I might be like, you know what? It's time to pick up some fly fishing. So don't stress yourself out about it too much. I would just pick things that you are interested in and go out and do it. And you might get to a point where you're like, this isn't that fun. Maybe I'm not passionate about it. But if you really haven't committed to it and stuck to it, drudged through that drudgery, then you really will never know if you were passionate about it or not.
Awesome. Thank you. Because you just get stuck in a job and you're like, that's my identity. I was that person, that job title was me. And when you leave it and you start something else, and it's wonderful to have a fresh slate. That's a gift. And I don't take that for granted. But to have that and then be like, oh, I can be whatever. It's hard to say what, and to your point of exploring. So it's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you've got like 10 ideas and you're like, these are the 10 ways I could change the world. Like, if you can't pick one, like, just put them in a hat and like pull one out and like just start, I mean, yeah. I know that's such a simple piece of advice, but that's what we do.
And if you have no ideas, then figure out what pisses you off. And a lot of the time, that'll point you in the right direction.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
All right, I don't see anyone lining up for the lightning round, so this will be a quick podcast.
Yeah, you can spend more time on our questions.
Yes, indeed. All right. Oh, there they go. There they are.
Hello, fellas.
Howdy.
My name is Sean, and here's my...
You're hired.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we have two Seans with us here, and they're both... Are you from Ohio?
No, I'm from
I'd like
Maine.
to rescind my offer.
Yes, I spell it S-H-A-W-N, though. Does he spell it that way?
Yeah, that's the only correct way to spell it.
Yes, that's what I think. So my nickname is Dubs. They call me Dubs because the W is sort of the rare way to spell it, apparently, around these parts. So... anyway, here's my scenario. A couple of years ago, I moved into... I live about 4 hours north of here. There is a north of here.
Wow.
And it's a little town called Caribou. And 2 years ago... Yeah, Caribou. 2 years ago, I moved into a little 95-square-foot camper that I parked on my parents' land.
Wow.
And in order to do that, I had to get rid of a lot of stuff, obviously. I'm lucky that I have some storage options, so I have boxes of stuff that's still waiting to be pared down, but I've gone through this process of paring down my stuff, like, systematically and getting less and less and less, and it's been great. It's been very successful, and I've enjoyed the process and the results. But the problem is that I'm hitting this wall now because I get to my hobbies that I'm passionate about. And I've got these two in particular. So I love creating music, and that necessitates, I've got guitars, I've got drums, I've got microphones, I've got mixers, I've got wires. But that music absolutely adds value to my life. It's my mental health, right? So I stop there and I say, I'm not getting rid of that stuff because that's important to me. And then I have electronics. I love tinkering with electronics, and I build circuits, so I've got microchips, and I've got more wires, a lot of wires in my life. And obviously power supplies and boxes of things, and it's like I'm going to need that someday to build a circuit. But that adds value to my life because I've been able to build my own like home automation for my camper, and I have a garden that's robotically controlled, and I have it all on my phone, and it's like, oh, look at me. So thank you. And I'm passionate about combining this organic lifestyle with this technology lifestyle, and combining these two. And I've taken a page out of your book, and I've been blogging about all of this stuff, and it's going really well. But again, the same thing. I have boxes of power supplies and boxes of this, and it's like I can't get rid of that. So I'm kind of hitting this wall, and I'm telling myself that stuff adds value to my life,
yes.
so I can't get rid of it. But I'm also a recovering alcoholic who's very skilled at lying to himself.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting that wall, and like,
well, let me. I just want to turn this to a bit of a conversation here. Why do you want to get rid of it?
Well, I guess I'm getting at a point where I think I don't need as much of it as I have. Like, so I say, like when I just said that, I was finding myself saying I have mixers plural, I have microphones plural.
Yeah.
Like maybe I don't need as many. Like I can pare that down, and I've done some of that, but I hit the wall, and I think I can't get rid of that because I need it because it adds value. But how do I break through and say, no, I'm lying to myself. I don't need as much as I have.
Yeah. So I believe in creative limitations, and I think it's a spectrum, or really I look at it as a pendulum, right? So there you could be at one side where you have multiple mixers, mixing boards that you're not. I mean, you should see our really fancy podcast studio. It's a little machine about the size of this microphone and 2 microphones, right? It's a Zoom H6. And that's pretty much and some a power cord that plugs into the wall, and that's our setup, and we can pretty much take that anywhere. And what I've learned with these creative limitations is sometimes it actually brings out the creativity in you by limiting what you have. I'll give you a few examples here. So with respect to writing, because that's what I'm really passionate about, I used to have all these rules set up for me. I needed 15 different things before I ever started writing. So I spent most of my 20s as an aspiring writer, which means you just don't write very much. But you aspire every damn day. But what I realized is I had this arbitrary list of rules. Like I have to have my cup of coffee, and I have to have my notepad and the correct pen. I need the red pen and the black pen. And then I need the appropriate writing program, but then I also keep a separate notepad on the computer in a different program. And all of these things needed to happen. And then, oh crap, I forgot I need to do the laundry, and that needs to be done before I can start writing. And all of a sudden, I'd have 13 of my 15 items checked off the list, and I'd have no more time left for writing. And what I found now is I have far fewer rules. I have one rule to start writing. I have to wake up. That's my rule. I haven't figured out how to write in my sleep yet, but if I do, then I'll have no rules. And my point is, that's the only rule I have now. It doesn't matter what I don't care what computer program Stephen King used to write a hit book. What you care about is the actual the doing itself. One of my favorite musicians is David Gray. I'm sure many of you know him. His 2000 album is called White Ladder, and he works in a beautiful studio. He bought a really gorgeous studio in London. But that album, the one that is a record-breaking smash hit, was recorded in his bedroom. And the point behind that was sometimes you can capture the special thing that you lose when you don't have those same limitations. So what I would encourage you to do is possibly set up some of those limitations on yourself. It doesn't mean you have to instantly get rid of the stuff, but this is exactly what Ryan did with the packing party. It was a forced limitation. He didn't throw all the stuff out. He didn't rent a dumpster and chuck his stuff in it. What he did was just box it all up for a period of time, and then brought back into his life the things he was certain he needed to live that life. And I think that can be true with hobbies or passions or anything else. I don't want you to deprive yourself of those things long term, but that short term deprivation might help you understand what actually does add value to your life and what is an imaginary value for your life.
I don't really have a lot to add to that. That was really good, man. But what I will give you a limitation that I have, and you can interpret this however you want. But I typically look at stuff, if I haven't used it in the last 90 days, and I'm not going to use it in the next 90 days, if I'm honest with myself, then I will typically get rid of it. Now, there are some exceptional things. Like my snowboard, you know, I'm not going to like go snowboarding in September or April. Actually, you could probably go snowboarding in April in Montana. Actually, I did earlier this month. But anyway, forget that. But what I'm saying is there might be an exceptional thing where I know I'm going to use it. Maybe yours is a year. Maybe you look at it at those circuit boards and those cables and all those computer chips. Am I using this jargon right?
Oh, yeah, you're doing good. Yeah.
So like maybe you look at that stuff and you're like, when's the last time, or how long have I had that? Oh, I've had that for like, you know, the last 4 years. Okay. Am I going to use that in the next 4 years? Or am I going to use that in the next year? Whatever that rule is, like just make those rules and stick to it. So I don't know if that helps you out or not, man. But also limiting like how many number of things you can hold on to. Because, I mean, really, you could build an infinite amount of computers. But the question is how many you're going to build over the next, you know, year or so. Okay, I'm gonna have enough parts to build 2 computers a year, whatever it may be. Again, like just trying to set those rules to help you curate what you have.
That's great. And not only is that all great advice from both of you, but like what I love is getting out of my own head, because I asked this question and you're giving me the answer and I'm realizing that I'm actually on the way to doing this. Like I am recording in the camper with just the bare minimum, but what will fit in the camper. And so like I'm already on that path, and it's like makes me realize that okay, I'm doing well. I'm just keep doing it. You know,
absolutely,
persistence.
And you know what? I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom here, but there's not an end to it, man. Like you're always going to have to be asking these questions. Right. You're always going to have to be sticking to these boundaries, and sometimes the boundaries will change, and that's okay.
Right. I hope there's not an end.
Yeah.
I want to keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So that is kind of the beautiful thing is like it's like you look at a horizon, you head towards it, and then once you get to that horizon, there's another horizon ahead of you.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Howdy.
Hi. My name's Sophie, and I'm guessing I probably should have read one of the books in addition to watching the documentary.
There was pre-work.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, you can't ask a question then.
I'm totally hearing, kidding. Like now I'm hearing the whole box it up, hold on to it, and then get rid of it theory. That's not what we did. And so a couple weeks ago, my mister and I watched your documentary and we were like, whoa, this is awesome. And so it started like a week of like, let's get rid of all this crap. Like, gone, goodwill,
Great.
People.
I'm glad you didn't wait to read a book to start getting rid of stuff.
I figured you covered it in the movie. That's what everybody else does, so. But so then I forgot we were going on vacation, first vacation in forever, and we went to Miami. And so I packed everything I had left that was kind of remotely acceptable for 80-degree weather into a suitcase that I've actively gotten drunk in and fit in, and just hoped it was under the weight limit so he didn't have to pay like the extra baggage charge. I don't really know what was in there. It was a lot of stuff. And so we get down there and we're in like actively like Miami, South Beach, where the people who have bowling alleys in their house are, or people who like bedazzle their eyebrows. Like we saw so much
DJ Khaled.
stuff. Yeah. We took we were on this cruise and we saw Mark Cuban's yacht, which apparently is like a $300 million yacht, but it had like 4 baby yachts, as if it was like reproducing, like around it. And so, like, I guess my question is not just to get up here and like tell you all the things I like totally messed up about
you say
your well-laid
$300 million?
Yes.
Man, that's a good start. I mean, you can't live on it, but it is a really, really good start.
Well, you start on the baby yachts. But like when I was down there, I remember like he'd fallen asleep. He just had pizza delivered to us in beach chairs in South Beach, because apparently that's what happens. And I was just sitting there in the only bathing suit I'd left myself, feeling like a very, very, very white, just like, you know, like just like a little pot-bellied pig, looking around at all these people with bedazzled eyebrows and bowling alleys in their house. And like, what do you do when you feel like, when you're like solid, committed minimalist, but you recognize in certain moments that you're still in a seriously consumer-driven environment? You get kind of bummed out because it is kind of competitive. and like that's kind of like all around you all the time, I guess is what I'm asking. So is it just because I'm a beginner? Is it just because I kind of suck at this still? Will those moments go away where I'm like, no, I do need that blue mascara. Like I may only wear it once, but that one time will be great.
The short answer to your question is yes and no. And so I'll try to make that less confusing.
So you kept your blue mascara.
No, I mean, the truth is that will it get easier? Yeah, in time, any habit that you know, it's like when you go to the gym for the first time and you work out really, really, really hard and then all of a sudden you're sore as hell for the next week. Like, that's not a good feeling either, right? And I think the same thing can sometimes happen with minimalism. Like, you can get someone who's just gung-ho, really excited, and all of a sudden they're like, let's get rid of everything. And I think it's great because personally, I've never regretted anything that I've ever gotten rid of. But the truth is that I also realized if I said earlier, it took me 8 months to pare down my life. I wish I would have done it sooner because I feel like I kind of wasted a bit of time doing it. But just because it does get easier over time, it doesn't mean you always absolutely love it. You know, I do exercise. I exercise every single day, whether it's going to the gym or physical therapy or yoga, and I don't always feel so inspired by it, right? I don't feel like, man, I'm really inspired to go to yoga today, but that's when I know I need to go the most. Same thing with meditating or anything else. And so I think ultimately, when it comes to any of that stuff, when I see the consumerism in the world around us, whether it's at a shopping mall or on South Beach, we were just there last year. We had a tour stop there, and I mean, we'll often speak in the most unconventional places. We a few years ago spoke in the largest mall in North America, in West Edmonton, Canada, and it's much better to speak there than at a Buddhist monastery, right? Because, I mean, what am I going to do? You guys have too many sandals. No, I would rather put our message up against the message of consumerism. But even then, of course, I'm going to be tempted by it. There are marketers and demographers who make $250,000, $500,000 a year to aggregate my eyeballs effectively to their product or service. And so, yes, it's always going to be tempting, but if you build up the sort of mental musculature over time, it will become easier.
Yeah, it's funny. I think about the $300 million yacht with its baby yachts. And
they're so cute.
I mean, even having a boat, I love to wakeboard. Like, I haven't gone in forever, since I lived like back in Ohio about 5 years ago, I guess it's going on. But I've like thought about like, man, maybe one day I can get like just a, used like old wakeboarding boat. So I'm not even thinking about a yacht. I'm just thinking about like a wakeboarding boat. But thinking about having that makes me think about my dad, and he had just like this really kind of little dinghy for all intents and purposes, and it was such a pain in the neck, like to upkeep. He used to always say, "Boats stands for bring out another 1,000," because he's constantly making repairs to it. And then like when we would go on boat trips, like he was I don't want to say he was never happy, but like it was 50% happiness and then 50%. Like, telling me to leave him alone, and he's trying to maneuver the boat, and, I'm like giving him wrong directions, and he's like back in the boat and this, whatever. Like, it was 50% good experience, 50% like not a very pleasurable experience. A $300 million yacht is going to cost you millions of dollars of upkeep every single year. Like, you can't upkeep that yourself. So, for me, when I look at, even when we were in South Beach and driving by and looking at the houses, like I would think to myself, how many dining rooms do those houses have? Like maybe they have 3 dining rooms or 4 dining rooms. You got to eat really fast to eat in 4 dining rooms. I mean, to me, the excess, it is depressing in a way because it does kind of perpetuate itself. But I think we are starting to just get on the cusp of where, and you all being here is kind of proving this point of, we are getting on this cusp of realizing, I guarantee you, if I dropped a $300 million yacht in your lap right now.
Please don't.
I mean, or anyone out there who thinks that they want that, they might be happy for a day or a year. Like there might be some ephemeral happiness, but that's just it. It's ephemeral. And the rich people I meet, who maybe they have a lot of really nice, maybe they're not minimalists and they have a lot of really nice stuff. If they're happy, it's because they're happy with who they are. They're happy with the relationships they have in their life. They don't need all that stuff and the money to be happy. They're just happy people. Like, you probably take all that stuff away and they would just find another way to make money, because they would just still go through life being happy and doing what they needed to do to continue that meaningful life. And I keep saying happy, but I don't think happiness is the point anymore. When I was in the corporate world, I would always chase that happiness. And I would argue that I would get the happiness. So when I got that new car every 2 years, I just remember every 2 years, I'd get a new car and it was like, oh yeah, this car is awesome. But then I'd get that, first car payment and then that second car payment. And then it was that happiness depreciated. So every time I got happiness, it was I had it and then it was just kind of fleeting. And now, instead of focusing on happiness, I focus on living a meaningful life. And to me, what that means is my short-term actions aligning with my long-term values and beliefs. And the beautiful thing about pursuing a meaningful life is happiness is this beautiful byproduct that happens. So if you keep it up, it will absolutely get easier. There's no doubt about it. But you know what? I'm going to give you permission to go get blue mascara after the show. Go get it. Go get your blue mascara.
I kept that. Let's not be dramatic. I'm not an animal.
Is Jessica Williams back there? Jess. Oh, there you are. Would you mind grabbing me a copy of Essential? Thank you. So you didn't do your pre-work?
No.
So
I'm always honest, though. I was always the kid who said I didn't do my homework, but I'm going to fake it.
I appreciate your honesty. But I'm going to give you, I don't want to feel like I'm selling you one of our books, because that's not what I'm here to do.
By the way, they're for sale back there in the lobby.
Yeah, but to be fair, the profits go to our favorite charity. It's the Josh and Ryan Gas Fund to get back to Missoula. But no, I'd love to, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Jessica Williams. If you follow us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, or what else do the kids do these days?
Yik Yak? I have no idea, dude.
Do you follow us on Yik Yak? Then it's Jess that manages all of that, and she does such a phenomenal job. Jess, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I want to give you that book because there are some rules in there. There's a whole chapter on stuff. And some basic rules. So we wrote 3 different books. There's Everything That Remains, which is my favorite thing that I've ever written. It's a memoir about the 5 years of Ryan and I moving from these suit and tie corporate guys to minimalists. That's sort of the why-to book. We wrote a book called Minimalism, Live a Meaningful Life. That's sort of the what-to book, what are the values in your life. And this is more of a how-to book. It's called Essential. It's an essay collection, 150 different essays. But in there is something called the 20-20 rule. And your blue mascara fits into that possibly. And what I mentioned when I was talking earlier, the 3 most dangerous words in the English language, just in case. I held on to so many things, just in case. I use that as justification to have hordes of stuff in my basement, attic, closets, garage, storage facility, just in case I might need it. And the truth is that I didn't need the vast majority of those. So I gave myself permission to let go of just in case, because I realized I could replace any of those just in case items for less than $20 in less than 20 minutes. We call it the 20-20 rule. Now you might say, that's a rule of privilege. I don't want to have to spend $20 every single day on some just-in-case item. You'd have a good point if that was true, but I can tell you that within the last 5 years since Ryan and I have implemented that rule, we've used it 5 times between the two of us. And that rule has given me permission to let go of tens of thousands of other just-in-case items that I wasn't getting any other value from at all.
So this is like minimalism for dummies.
No,
Basically.
no, but you should write that book.
I have other passions that end in bored that I'm focusing on right now. I'm not a writer. Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you. Hey, Ryan. You know what time it is?
Oh, yeah, you know what time it is. It's time for our hashtag Ask the Minimalists lightning round.
We are on, what is it, Twitter and Instagram at The Minimalists and Facebook.com/The Minimalists. And we usually answer questions from there right now. People tweet us and Insta us.
Is that a verb yet?
Anyway, but you all are here, so if you want to give us a question, we will try to respond with a short, shareable, less than 140 character response. And I guess when Sean, when you actually post this up sometime, he'll put our responses in the show notes. By the way, for people listening at home, if you have a comment or tip for anyone today, you can leave us a voicemail, 406-219-7839. We will air our favorite comments and tips on the next episode. You can also send a voice memo right from your phone to podcast@theminimalists.com, and we will air those comments and tips real soon. Howdy, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Miranda. Thank you guys for coming to Portland. I hope we're showing you a good time. Blue mascara is a tough act to follow. So I have a parenting question. So Josh, I guess this is kind of aimed at you.
Okay.
I have 3 kids, so I'm interested to know.
Wait, kind of 3 kids?
No, I have 3 kids.
Oh, okay. I thought.
I'm interested to know your answer. You wrote Everything That Remains as a single, childless bachelor.
Yeah.
And you now find yourself in a very different position. You have, for all intents and purposes, a spouse and a child. Does minimalism look different to you now as a parent? Is it harder than you thought it would be? Or have you just continued the same paradigm, adding these people to your life?
I'm thinking of my 140 characters right now.
I'm going to count every word.
Please do. We got to keep it honest. Minimalism is more challenging as a family, but that's why it's more important.
I like that one. Thank you.
By the way, you all are the judge there, so that applause was sort of the meter of so Ryan.
It's not fair, I don't have kids.
That's tweetable.
Let me think for a second. All right, I'm going to pass. You get that one, Millie.
Beautiful. Howdy.
Hi, guys. I'm Kate.
Okay.
So glad you guys are here.
I'm glad you're here.
Thanks. I've been following you for quite a while, as you guys kind of alluded to. Twitter,
I felt
Facebook,
someone's presence behind me.
Instagram, TED Talks, the documentary.
Thank you.
What is your favorite part? Like, if you could only do one of them, what's your favorite part of this journey you're on?
You want to go first? No. Okay. All right.
By the way, we just turned this into a game like 2 shows ago, and ever since we've done that, like it's so much pressure now.
Well, usually what happens is we'll like have the questions. It used to be
fun, and then Josh gamified it.
We usually have like a day to like type something out and make it turn some platitude into something meaningful, but now you're just going to be stuck with some quick bromide. All right. I don't even remember the question now.
I have stumped the minimalists. I love it.
Oh my goodness.
What's your favorite part of the?
Oh yeah. Okay, I got you. So, I'll give you an honest answer after I give you my tweetable answer. As my life changes, that which adds value changes as well. That's my pithy, shareable answer, and it's true. But if I had to pick one thing, it would be writing narrative nonfiction for sure.
Man, I think I would. I'm. I would say. This is a tweetable answer. It ain't that awesome, but I'll tell you. Nothing makes me happier than living a well-curated life. So I'm just going to expound a little bit. There isn't a favorite part. Maybe I still could. Look, I'm going to redo this. There isn't a favorite part of minimalism. There's nothing makes me happier than living a well-curated life. I mean, it's all great.
That's solid. You definitely get that one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for all you do.
Hi, guys. You mentioned Buddhism earlier, ironically. And do you guys feel any weird kinship with monks or priests and vows of poverty and asceticism? Or do you guys feel any of that? Do you feel like you can connect with that idea? Do you feel closer to God?
Oh, I got 140 characters for this one.
Okay. Go for it.
It doesn't matter what organized religion you belong to or what God you worship. They all want you to live a simple life.
You mentioned asceticism, which for those of you who don't know what asceticism is, it's perpetual suffering to, I'm doing a bad job of making it tweetable, but dealing with pain, basically. And so my tweetable answer would be that minimalism is not about deprivation. Minimalism is about aligning your short-term actions with your long-term values. Also, Ryan and I have different religious and spiritual beliefs, so I can attest that it really doesn't matter what your beliefs are.
That's why we never really talk about it. We would just be arguing all the time.
Hey, my name is Alex. I got a relatively objective one for you. What book are you reading right now?
Okay.
Or what books are you reading right now?
Man.
Are minimalists allowed to read more than one book at a time?
Yeah. I actually want to talk about the book I just finished, but I can't really tweet that. Well, I guess what I just...
It's cool. We can just talk about what books we're reading right now. Go for it.
Okay. Well, actually, there were 6 people in line, so we'll just talk about this.
Sweet, then we have 2 more.
Right. Okay. I just got done reading a book by Christopher Ryan, and I can never remember his co-author's name. I'm so sorry if she's listening to this right now. But it's called Sex at Dawn, and it's kind of an old book, like I want to say 4 or 5 years old, but it does an amazing job of talking about how sex has evolved essentially through our civilization. And the biggest point I got from it, which has nothing to do with sex, but the biggest point I got from it was when I think about, oh man, I'm gonna try not to get like political. When I think about certain things in life, I'll just say that, and I look at it going backwards, I guess. It's like I look at it as a de-evolution, as a devolving. And this book talks about how evolution is not about, it's not about going forwards or backwards. It's simply survival. And for me, I don't know why, but like that one point like really, really helped me to feel okay with the way the world is. Because you know that saying, like sometimes it has to get worse to get better? I mean, that is evolution, essentially. And evolution is about survival. But if anyone is, I don't know, like, if that sounds like it would pique anyone's interest, it's really cool. They use a lot of just examples of, how sex is viewed in different parts of the world, how it was viewed in the past, why it is viewed the way it is now, why our society looks at it the way it is, and it's a real big eye-opener. And it's not like, and it's not an eye-opener in the sense of like I'm changing my morals or, it hasn't shifted my moral compass, but it's just interesting to see like why we're at where we're at today.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great book. We're going to be on his podcast next week. We'll be out in LA doing some stuff, and he has a great podcast called Tangentially Speaking, and he's a brilliant guy, and he interviews really interesting people. There's only one book that I go back. Well, there's a few books I go back to regularly, but there's one that I tend to go back to quite a bit, especially when we're preparing for a tour. It's Epictetus's Discourses, and so I've been reading that recently. So for those of you who are familiar, I actually think the woman right before you mentioned maybe the Stoicism, she mentioned ascetics, which is not unsimilar. But he's one of the Stoics, so a couple thousand years old. A lot of great traditional wisdom in the Discourses. He's my favorite of the Stoics. And also, my partner and I, we read to each other at night because she has I read aloud to her because she has trouble getting to sleep. And so I want to help her be able to go to sleep. So we like to read fiction at night. I can't remember. Oh, yes, I can. And I don't recommend this book to anyone, but I love it, and so does she. But you have to have a really twisted sense of humor to get into it. So just the caveat. It's called The Average American Male by Chad Culkin. And yeah, it's NC-17 for sure, but not because, well, yeah, because of that too. But yeah, it's vulgar. It's like if you could get into it, well, if you were to take a testosterone-filled 20-something-year-old male and project his id onto the pages of a main character of a book, and all of his thoughts were just spilling onto the page, it would sort of be like that. So I don't know if that's helpful at all. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're back to the lightning round.
All right.
Hi, guys. Thank you for coming out to Portland. I have a career question, actually, from my wonderful fiance in the back. When you have kind of two career paths ahead of you that would both bring value to your life, but kind of in different ways, how do you figure out which direction would kind of work with your life?
Oh, let me see if I can. I'm gonna work this out aloud, and then I'll try to make it tweetable. That might be a better strategy going forward. Sometimes there's a right path and a left path. Sometimes there's a right path and a wrong path, and sometimes there is a right path and no other path. And you need to figure out which one that you're trying to go down. And so for you, if there is a right path and a wrong path, take the right path. If there is a right path and a left path, then pick a path and go. I think that's tweetable.
The best recipe for discontent is being stuck in a career that doesn't align with your long-term values and beliefs. So I'm just going to expound on that a little bit. You said that both of them kind of align with the values and beliefs, but one of them does align more. So first, get clear on what the values and beliefs are, because that's so important. I mean, that is fundamental. If anyone is in here is like, I want to start this minimalist journey, like start with that question of, you know, how might your life be better with less? Then get to your values and beliefs, because that's really what I feel like people should be working towards. And if those aren't written down, then it's very hard to have a compass. If you have gone through this exercise, that's awesome. But you've got to ask yourself, like, okay, is job A going to require me to be away from home more? Is job B, oh no, job B is going to like allow me to be home at dinner for 5 o'clock. I mean, it's going to be those small, that right now seem small, but in the future it's going to add up to a lot. So I doubt that they're both exactly aligned with the values and beliefs. There's going to be one that is going to stand out more than the other for sure.
All right, I've got a pithy thing for you. Suffering lies at the precipice of indecision.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So besides your opportunity to spread your message again here in Portland, Maine, what about your experience this time has added value for you?
Ryan has 2 words for you.
Burger bar.
I saw that over there. Is that a pretty awesome place? Yeah.
Alcoholic milkshakes.
I know that is this a tiebreaker? Are we still gamifying this?
I don't know. It feels like a tiebreaker.
All right. Maine, Portland, Maine. Let me. Portland, Maine has the best lobster roll I've ever had in my life.
That would be disappointing if we didn't.
Well, you got what? Some screams? Oh. That's what you always say. There's a delayed laugh over it. Was that Jess? What has added value to my life from Portland? We just got in here, man. It's just really unfortunate. It has definitely been the best weather of the tour, but I don't have a pithy thing, but I will tell you that to me, it really does feel like a very big small town, and I like that. You know, I find that as we travel around the country, many of my favorite cities are towns that are large enough to have a lot of culture, but not large enough to sustain a major league football team or baseball team and on their own. You know, we grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and you know, there's no sports there, and some of my favorite cities like Tucson or Salt Lake City or Portland, Maine, or Missoula, Montana, or St. Petersburg, Florida, and I find that when we go to these places, because they're not incredibly large, there seems to be a lot of, here we go. I told you I'd get there. Portland, Maine has a shit ton of culture per capita.
He also got screams.
Thanks for the question, man. You can just set that microphone up here.
Yeah, you can just set it.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Before we wrap up, a few other people I want to thank. First off, I want to is Mahalik anywhere around here? So there he is. Sean Mahalik, he is a very talented novelist. He works with us for a while. We actually met him on our very first tour in Pittsburgh back in 2011. And since then, he's been out in Montana with us, and he's done a great job. But if you get a chance to read any fiction anytime soon, Sean Mahalik, look him up. But he's been helping us out. He'll be in the back as well. We have some books back there. In about 15 or 20 minutes, we'll be back there as well. We tend to do a hug line. They're totally optional, by the way. But they are free and transferable, so you can pick one up if you'd like. We also have books back there, and we'll do pictures and all that fun stuff as well. So let's give Sean a round of applause. Thanks for being with us, brother. And what about this venue, Port City Music Hall? Thank you so much for having us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And most important, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for, I know it costs some money to get into this because we have to pay for the space, we have to pay to travel here, but it really costs more than that. It costs your time and your attention, and we're really grateful that you're willing to give up a few hours of your time tonight and give us your time and your attention. Those are your two most precious resources. And if you leave here with just one message, we hope it's this: love people and use things, because the opposite never works. We'll see you soon. Hey, real quick, before we get into those comments and tips from our listeners, a couple things that are going on right here, right now in the lives of the Minimalists. I already talked about at the beginning of the podcast. We are on the road, 40 different cities, lessisnow.com. You can find the city closest to you. But also, Ryan and I are in the middle of building a podcast and film studio, and we could use your help. We refuse to clutter our podcast with advertisements, so we rely on people like you to help us create something meaningful. So if you want to see more meaningful audio and video creations this year, you can help us out. You can be part of the 1% of our audience who is supporting our work. Just go to theminimalists.com. You can click on donate at the top. You can either contribute one time via PayPal, or if you really want to create something sustainable, you can do the Patreon account. So we have a Patreon account that allows you to support us on a per episode basis. You don't have to support anyone else, and you can also cap that. So if Ryan and I go crazy and we start putting out 20 podcast episodes a month, you don't have to contribute to every episode. We really appreciate your support on that. And if you can't afford to support us monetarily, don't worry. We also have other ways to support us. So you can go over to iTunes and leave us a review. Obviously, we prefer a 5-star review, but if you hate our guts, you can leave a 1-star review. We'll be okay with that as well. But this month, May 2017, for every review that someone leaves, we will donate $10 in your name to the Against Malaria Foundation. We're trying to save some lives. It takes about $3,500 to save one life. So for every 350 reviews we get this month, together, we can save one life. Did you know that half the people who have ever lived have died from malaria? And we can help change that. We can do a little bit to help a few people in the world. So if you'd be willing to just take 60 seconds, pause the podcast, and leave a review on iTunes, we would greatly appreciate it. All right, y'all. Enjoy these comments and tips from our listeners.
Hey, Josh and Ryan. Alicia from Australia. Just ringing because I was listening to your Pittsburgh podcast, and there was a woman there who was asking a question about what to do with her blanket that an aunt had given to her, and it was covered with like photos of her as like growing up and as a child, and she does not want to keep it. And I had a suggestion that she could donate it to an animal shelter. Any blankets or, you know, old sheets or towels or bedding and stuff that people want to get rid of in their mincing journey. Animal shelters are a great option because obviously the animal's not going to care if there's a warm blanket with the picture of your face on it. They're just going to be grateful that they have something warm to snuggle up into. and have a nice, safe sleep. So don't forget the animals, and that's always an option.
Hi, my name is Lori. I am from Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been listening to your podcast for quite a while now. I was listening to one recently where a young woman had called in asking a question. Her and her husband were trying to pay down some debt, and she had just been laid off. They were a young family, it seemed, and she had decided that she would stay home. The advice that was given was, in order for her to better pay down her debt, was for her to get a job. And while I understand the ramifications to that, my concern is that I believe you guys may have missed the mark on that. The reasoning behind parents staying home, a lot of times, and I know this from experience, I'm just speaking from my experience, is the stages at which you're a parent, they are fleeting and they're short. And a lot of times when people choose to stay home, they choose to stay home so they could be with their children during those stages, usually the baby stage and the younger stages, sometimes older stages. But, once that stage is gone, you can never get it back. So for me, staying home is, while it's a financial decision, it's also something that's bringing value to my life.
Every little thing you think that you need, every little thing you think that you need, every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it. Every little thing that you gotta have, every little thing that you gotta have, you gotta reach for, and you gotta grab. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it. So tear your eyes away, or tear